Look
Very
at
good.
that beautiful reflection in the window.
It is beautiful. Look at that sunshine coming in from out there. Woo!
Oh man, it was supposed to rain today. What the heck?
Well, my barometer said otherwise.
Well, we know your barometer is smarter than any weather forecast.
It's much more ancient. It's been going on a long time.
So how are you doing today?
You know, I feel like most days I could say I'm okay, and yet I'm acutely aware of the fact that I feel like, the constructs of everything going on are sort of weighing heavy on me.
Yeah. What's that look
Even,
like in feeling tone?
well, even I feel like generally I think generally I'm a fairly resilient person.
Mm.
And so I have that going for me. I can't, I mean, I can only imagine people in my life that don't have that quality so strongly under their belt. What they're feeling and going through.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my heart hurts a bit. And by hurt, I mean feels heavy and tense and floppy. Does that make sense?
A lot tense and floppy.
Yeah, I know. Maybe like it's going do, do, do.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty common experience. It's people I've been talking to found, yeah, just different members at the center. Like, they reel from one moment, everything's okay, to the next moment, they go grocery shopping and they're like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, tense is a really good word. Um, there's like this underlying tension.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this, it's taut. I was sharing with you earlier, to me, it's like a suspense novel. And my desire to flip to the end and find out how it all unfolds. What's the end of this story? But I also had some, like, can't help think that, like, my auntie, if she were alive, would be next to 100. My
Mm-hmm.
mom's 92. And I can't help think about pre-consumerism. And this morning I was thinking, well, what did they do all day if they weren't shopping and buying and planning about their next purchase or the next expense? Because the world wasn't like that, right? Like, and the majority of the population alive, we were born into consumerism, and we don't know what it's like to just live.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, consumerism takes up so much time. And so to not to have this sort of overarching requirement from our government to stay at home,
Mm-hmm.
unless there's, unless you're looking after some needs, household needs, it's like, well, what does that look like? What does day after day, week after week, and potentially month after month look like?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would look like what my aunt and my mom used to live like when they were young,
Mm-hmm.
pre-World War II. The onset of consumerism was right during World War II. So before that, and so I was thinking how, so what did pre-World War II look like? I think it was right around that time when the washing machine was invented, and it was marketed as well, you could have a washing machine and look at all the time you would free up. And then, the dryer, and look at all the time you'll free up. And then the microwave, look how fast you can cook food and all the time you will free up. And now look at all the pre-made food. You don't even need to cook food. You can buy it pre-made, and all the time it will free up.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to ask everybody watching, how many people feel like they have lots of free time as a result of all these things that have been invented and brought into our daily living.
No, even right now with, with like schedules being wiped clean, as they say, um, it's still totally relevant that my day is filled up. And it's sort of indicative of just like that it's not even about, how much clock hours there are, minutes
Yeah,
or days of the week or whatever. It's totally our relationship to time.
totally. It's like, I don't even know what bored is.
Yeah. And how active and busy and, or messy or categorized or whatever that one's mind is.
I went to garden center because I decided I need romaine lettuce. I got to grow romaine lettuce. And there weren't any romaine lettuce seeds left at the garden center or at the grocery store when I went there. And I'm like, well, how's that possible? And so the reason I mentioned that when talking about time, it's like I've got all these gardening projects that I'm piling on myself all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's all this other freed up time, and all of a sudden the garden needs it now. And I'm like busying around and making plans for the garden and got to get my peas in and got to get the romaine lettuce in and got to, like, I do it to myself.
For sure. I think
Make
that's
me
why
crazy.
I mentioned the constructs, in the first place, is like we have this, so points out how we have a idea of who we are, like who Collette is in this world, her role,
Mm-hmm.
how she shows up through everything. Like this is a totally new territory for all of us, and yet I am going to find my role the way I know myself to be and accomplish that within this box, within this home yard box or whatever, right? That's like, just, yeah, it just show. I guess I say the constructs weigh on me because freedom, as we
Mm-hmm.
know, means so much to me. So I'm like, today I've got this heaviness that's like, get these off of me.
And like you always say to me, who put them on there?
Yeah.
I know. My calendar, I did as you recommended. I unticked the center box so
Yeah.
that it doesn't show all the events and regular scheduled things that normally happen at the center. And it's rather quite empty. And yet some people are asking to use the center's Zoom channel. And I'm like, I'm not sure I want to share that. First was my first thought. And then my second thought was, okay, well, if it's available. So then now I'm having to put in the calendar Zoom when people are using the Zoom channel so that I know either need to ask them not to use it because I need it or the center needs it for for a center event. And I just think that's so crazy. It's like, oh my
Calendar
gosh.
filling back up again.
And then I just said to Blake, oh, I got some dog walks I need to do because we can't meet in together except, even every health efficient. I watched this, uh, doctor do this little video on totally scare tactic all around the virus. And I, even at the end of it, even though it was all scare tactic, please don't watch it. It was ridiculous, in my humble opinion. We don't need to scare people into behaviors. Even at the end of it, he said, go for a walk. I'm like, oh, well, then that's okay. As long as we keep our social distance. So now I've got like dog walks filling up in my calendar because I, want to check in with certain people and who I know are by themselves and have opportunity. Speaking of dog walk, have opportunity to, for them to feel connected. I live with my husband, so I don't feel disconnected. We do this every day, our conscious conversations. So I feel connected to you. And, but a lot of people I think don't have that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And yet everybody has some constructive box that they that they have put themselves in, and that life has put them in, and that they've established around themselves, and undoing to do.
Yeah, it really helps us recognize how difficult it is to step out of our own pattern behaviors, regardless of what's going on in the world. And so, can we use this time as an opportunity to do our own personal life a little bit differently, if not a lot differently, a little bit differently?
Yeah.
It's a
And
big
I think,
challenge.
yeah, totally. And I think it's a challenge, but I think it's it's honoring ourselves in some way, putting our practices to work and exploring being in a new way. It's like life has given us this really crazy opportunity to take us out of our normal rat race track and have the space to explore being a little bit new, and how easy it is to just still function from that same mindset and that same way of being. Like if we're not, catching ourselves in it.
I can't help to feel or sense. When I check in and you're talking about that, anxiety comes up for me. It's like I feel I grab onto my busyness as something that I can feel normal. If I can be busy, then that's normal to me.
Yeah. And so what would it be like really to not be normal?
Oh.
To not be busy?
Well, I know right away for me, it would give me the space to actually feel what I'm feeling. And we know how much I like that.
And not run from anxiety, but
to just be in it.
Yeah.
Listening to a really great book, Untamed by Collette, maybe is her name. And she just talks about that, being in our vulnerability, and how it's a really great book because she totally turns her life up topsy-turvy, and talks about how empowering it is to follow that heart space. And she talks about this daughter of hers who's a very feeling daughter, and they tried to contain her daughter to stop her from feeling, and it didn't work. And so she says she's actually this fortress of wisdom in their home, because they've managed to learn how to live with her and give her space for her feelings and allow her the time, whatever it takes, to process her feelings, and how the daughter has turned into being the teacher and the example for everybody in the house, because the daughter is used to feeling her feelings and gleaning the wisdom from it, where everybody else in the household is used to running from them. So it's an interesting reflection, and how, important it is for me to take time to actually listen and hear what people are saying instead of trying to fix them. Sorry about that.
We'll talk more about that another day.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and isn't hasn't that been what you've been teaching us this whole forever? Hasn't that been what we've been working on this last year or more? Like feeling our feelings, being a humanity that comes from that place, because that's what works.
It's a practice, man.
And because we've been ignoring it and shoving it aside forever.
Exactly.
It doesn't work.
No. And it's a practice, and it's a bad habit that needs, just like our lifestyle in many respects is a bad habit that needs revisiting. And so pushing away our feelings is a bad habit that needs revisiting. Mm-hmm. Are we complete today? Love you. So grateful.